So today I'm going to be speaking about what's new in Android Studio. So as Pan mentioned, I'm an Android engineer and a GDE based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And if you want to find me on the internet or on Twitter, GitHub, that kind of thing, you can find me at Rigaroo pretty much everywhere. So just reach out to me on Twitter, anything there, if you have any questions after the fact and I don't get to them. And what do? I work on an app called Over, recently acquired by GoDaddy. It's a graphic design app. So I've been working with Android and doing things in Android Studio for a very long time. And today what I'm going to be showing you is some of the newer features in Android Studio and some of the things that are coming up in like the preview version of Android Studio that you can expect. So some of the stuff you might be already aware of, but hopefully there's one or two things that you haven't yet dived into or looked at yet, and that's hopefully what you'll learn today. So Android Studio 4.0, hopefully you're all on this one already. This is already in the stable channel, and there is a bunch of cool new treats in Android Studio 4.0 that you can start using today. So the first one is a motion editor. We're going to also look at the live layout inspector. We're also going to look at multi-preview of layouts, as well as the Java 8 library desugaring and the Gradie build analyzer. So the first one is the motion editor. So this is by far my favorite feature of the new Android Studio. And this is a new UI tool for editing and previewing your motion scene files from motion layouts. So for those that don't know what motion layout is, it's basically the next step from constraint layout. So constraint layout gave us a whole bunch of awesome stuff, such as being able to create these great layouts that are like relative to one another, but not using relative layouts, and some really epic stuff like bias and constraints and making things like really work well together. And motion layout is built on top of that. So it gives you the ability to create animations with constraint layouts. So you can animate your views across the screen and all that kind of thing. So I did a whole presentation on the motion editor, and you can check it out at that link. So I'm not going to be doing that whole presentation today. But this is just like a quick little look at what exactly the motion editor is. So in Android Studio, you can now preview your animations as to how they will actually run on a device. So you can see in this example, I've got two states, a start and an end state. And I'm actually scrubbing between these two states, and actually you can see the button is moving across the screen, as well as the alpha is changing as this button goes along the screen. So you can set up a whole bunch of these different things inside Android Studio now. You don't need to go and be doing it in your in the XML that you maybe had to use before, which is a bit difficult to use and maybe a little bit harder to use. Whereas now you can just start adding your constraints here and adding your different properties based on your layout at different points. Cool, so motion layout. So like I mentioned, I do have a video on the whole topic. So it's a more longer form of what exactly I'm showing here. And if you prefer blog content, which maybe you don't because you're already watching this video, but if you prefer it in blog form, you can also check out my blog post that goes into detail about all the different features and how it works exactly on in the editor and all the different features that you can expect. Awesome. So the next thing is the live layout inspector. So this is basically very similar to the Chrome developer tools, similar, but maybe not as powerful yet. Hopefully it'll become like really, really awesome, like the developer tools that you see in web. But basically it allows you to see real-time information of what exactly is running on your device. And you can also see like a 3D preview of like the layers on what you're rendering onto screen, which is really nifty. And then one of the newer things is that there is property resolution. So this allows you to see, it's very similar to like your Chrome developer tools that we were able to see very long ago, like why is this color blue of this certain text? You could kind of follow where exactly the style was being overridden and which style file this color came from and that kind of thing. So this is now available in the live layout inspector as well. That'll help us, at least me, when I really struggle, when I'm like, why is this text a different color? I'm setting it to black and it is not black. So now at least we have this, this information, and we can like dive into exactly why exactly it is rendering a different color than what we're expecting. So this is an example of what it looks like. So this is one of the screens from the Over app that I work on. You can see there's quite the 3D perspective that I've applied on here. You just apply the layer spacing tool at the top. You just drag that along, and it's kind of adds space in between the layers. And you'll see on the left-hand side, we have the layout inspector, the component tree. So exactly you can dive and click on things and see exactly what is being rendered in your layout. So we kind of had this before with a different layout tool, but it wasn't really inside the editor, and it wasn't as rich, and it didn't work as well. So you can then, at this point, you can also click on an item, like at the bottom, I've clicked on the little templates, and you can see the properties of the certain layout or the certain view that you've got inside your screen. So you can see here we have the text color sets, the highlight, that kind of thing, exactly what is rendering on my screen and why. And the nice part with this tool is there's also the live updates button. So if you tick the little checkbox at the top, that will enable this to run as you are sort of tapping through the different views on your screen. So if you are now going through your app and like trying to see the differences, it'll start rendering and giving you all the different outputs on the screen. This does slow down the app on your phone, but I mean, if you are using it for debugging exactly why something is not rendering correctly, then I guess it's worth it. But yeah, so this is the layout inspector. There's a bunch of other different things you can do on it, but it's a really cool tool. I advise you to try and have a look at it. If you wanted to access it, it's basically on the bottom bar of your IDE, you'll see the layout inspector tab right in the corner is selected. And once you've selected that, you can make it, drag it bigger, and you'll get access to this. Okay, next thing. So layout validation. So this is similar to what we've just seen, but layout validation basically is when you're sort of writing the layout, so not once it's already running on the phone. And this helps you make your layouts like better in different like configurations, because it shows you different previews of different things. So you can see different things for like font sizes, common types of color blindness, just to make sure that the contrast is good in your app. Different languages, sizes of fonts, that kind of thing. So this is a look of how exactly it works in Android Studio. So if we are in a layout, you would then go on the side, you would see a layout validation tab that we click on. And now you can choose different options. So you can see I selected different font sizes, and that shows me how my layout is going to look with the default size, small size, large size, that kind of thing. The different color blindness that you get. So you can see now the contrast of our text against the background and all of that looks okay. And then you can also choose different things like different pixel devices, different maybe configurations if you want landscape or portrait, that kind of thing. And also if you wanted to create your own custom sort of setup here. So something that we kind of interested in recently is like fonts, or not fonts, languages. So if we are in France, that kind of thing, if we want the different languages like German, we can then set up different individual configurations and add them to this list. So you can see this one maybe needs a bit more work because there's a bit of text being cut off, but you can see now we can go through all the different configs. So we can choose the theme, the UI mode, the language, the API level, the device that we want to render it on, and we get all these different previews that we want to show and view on screen. So a really cool, powerful tool. I highly recommend trying this one out as well. So something else that's been released with the new Android Studio is the Java 8 library desugaring APIs. So there's now support for more of them, and basically in Android Studio 4.0, the desugaring engine that has now been extended to be able to give us more access to more Java language APIs that we haven't been able to use before. So some of the things that are coming from the Java time subset of the new Java time APIs we didn't really have before with Android. So now we're getting those, yay. And there's a bunch more. So like optionals and some additional methods to atomic integers. So yeah, if you want this in your apps, you don't have to use something like 310 AVP or some other like third-party time library. You would then, in your build.gradle file, you need to add these compile options to say core library desugaring enabled for true equals true. And then you need to include this dependency saying core library desugaring with this specific dependency included as well. And then you'll get access to these new, well, not new features, but these Java 8 features that we previously didn't have access to as Android developers, unfortunately. But now we're getting some more, yay. Awesome. So the build analyzer tool. So this one is also a really cool one because this allows us to improve our build processes and make them faster. And I don't know about you, but I have really slow builds, and anything that can help me improve the speed of my builds is a great thing. So I have definitely looked into this and used it, and it has been useful to know what exactly it's doing. So with this, you need to make sure that you're using the Android Gradie Plugin 4.0 or higher. And then when you run a build, just a normal build in your Android Studio, you will see there is now, next to the build output tab, there is now a build analyzer tab as well. And this shows us, basically it takes like the time that it took to run, and it compartmentalizes it into the different sections as to what took the most time. So you can see it like basically just measures every single thing that we're doing and tells us why, or like what's taking the longest amount of time. And this will then help us to improve certain areas, or maybe like cache certain outputs of certain build processes, that kind of thing. So the first tab, you can see this is an example. This is just from the Android Studio documentation, but this was from the Sensor Tracker app. And you can see like 63 seconds took for compiling just like the normal comp.android.application plugin. So yeah, so this provides a bunch of information, and it will like kind of show you what exactly is taking the longest amounts of time. So if you click on the tasks determining this build's duration, so there's like a few different tabs in this thing underneath. And at this point, you can see the different cool colors, particularly like the pink color that indicates that the Android or Java or Kotlin plugins. So that's basically saying these are run with like sort of default built-in plugins. And anything that's in the blue color is something that is like a custom plugin that you're running. So for instance, like Fabric Crashlytics, that kind of thing is a plugin that you apply to your project that's not really part of the standard plugins. And this could be taking a bunch of time for maybe some reason. So this will really kind of help you dive into what exactly, which plugin is taking long and what you can do about it. So the purple one is basically what happens when you are dynamically modifying properties at runtime. So if you are like changing your project properties at runtime and you're not like caching it or like changing it every single build, this will be highlighted with the like purple one. So you might want to define, you might want to try cache those certain things. But yeah, so it gives a bunch of cool information inside this tab analyzer thing. And then also gives you a warning section. So you can, this is basically like the suggestions of what you can do to improve your build speed. So you can see some of the tasks are always running in this instance because there is no, it's not, the certain task is not declaring an output in order for it to be supporting incremental builds or like caching of the certain outputs. So with these warnings, what you can do is sometimes you can, if it's like a third-party developer or something, you can generate a report from here. You can click the Generate Report button, and it will give you a nice little report that you can then send on to the plugin developers to tell them, like, look, I'm experiencing some delays with my build, and I think it is due to X, Y, Z. Here is a nice report. Please, can you help me? So yeah, basically the cool build analyzer tool. I would highly recommend trying it out and seeing if you can maybe shave off a few seconds of your build time, maybe a few minutes if you're lucky. But yeah, so that's the build analyzer plugin. So let's talk a little bit about Android Studio 4.2 preview. So everything that I've shown you before is in 4.0. In 4.2 preview, so just bear in mind this is a preview version, so it is not stable in certain instances. I like to install a bunch of the different Android Studio versions. So I have the stable version installed. I have this preview version installed. Just so that I can check out the different tools and sort of switch between them. And like day to day, I kind of use the stable version. But if I want to use or check out any of the new tools, or if I'm playing around in some like sample projects, I'm definitely in the preview version of Android Studio. So everything in 4.0 is obviously included in 4.2, but 4.2 has a few more treats. And some of them were in 4.1, but we'll just skip 4.1 and go straight ahead and look at 4.2. So we can look at the database inspector, the new project template using material components, TensorFlow Lite model bindings, the Android emulator inside Android Studio, exciting one. And then lastly, the Jetpack Compose previews and run on device. So looking at the database inspector. So this is also something that is really exciting for me because I have been trying to find a database tool that works nicely with Android projects, and it just hasn't been there. And I've used every single tool that's been available, and finally there is now one that is built into Android Studio, which is amazing. So this is an example of what it's doing with the Over Android app. So we have a database that stores fonts, and now I can view them, and in real time, I can actually just change things and see it immediately inside the app. So you can see I changed the name of this font, and it immediately displays the update inside our app, which is super, super exciting. So yeah, you can basically do anything that a normal database inspector tool can do. So you can just query, you can delete rows, whatever. You can do real-time updates. You can just make a sort of you can just view it as read-only if you wanted to. But yeah, basically the database inspector tool is, you'll see it's selected on the side. You just open that up, and you have to make sure that you're running like a debug version of the app on your phone, and then you can inspect the databases for that certain app that you've got running. Awesome. So material components in Android Studio. So this one is a small little update, but it's pretty cool because I have been sort of wondering why this wasn't there before. But basically the new project template in Android Studio is now using the material components theming. So previously, which is like 4.0, the previous version of Android Studio, if you created a new project, you would be getting a theme set up and everything set up, but the theme stuff was using app compat, and that is actually not the recommended way to go anymore. So you should be using material components themes, and if you're creating a new project in an older version of Android Studio, you might not know that because it's just like what it creates. So yeah, the new project template is now, if you create a new project and you go and check the theme that it's created or used, it is now using the material components theming stuff. So you no longer have to write a migration or any of that kind of thing. It is all set up for you, even with a night mode theme as well. So you can get that sort of out of the box without any worries. So yeah, go definitely check out material components theming stuff if you want to learn more and not use the older app compat theming stuff. Great. So diving into a little bit of something different. So if you have used TensorFlow Lite before, you may be familiar with the concept of a TF Lite file. And basically what a TF Lite file does is it's the whole TensorFlow model inference that you get. So you basically put some inputs into it and you get an output of what your prediction is from your trained TensorFlow Lite model. So the trained TensorFlow Lite model is that TF Lite file. But integrating with a TF Lite file can be quite difficult because you need to kind of understand and know what exactly the inputs are, and you need to really just have a good understanding of that information. So now in the new Android Studio, it is now generating some classes for you to use, and that kind of wraps this TF Lite file and makes it a lot easier for you to use these models and integrate with them without needing to know exactly what it's expecting and that kind of thing. So let's have a look at how this works exactly. So I'm now in Android Studio, and I have now had this new option to add a TensorFlow Lite model, import a TensorFlow Lite model. I basically navigate to the file that I have on disk. I click import and finish. And now you will see there is actual information that I can use about this TF Lite file and what exactly I can do with it. So it even gives me some sample code. This is amazing. I can just copy paste this and I get access to exactly how to use it, which is incredible because I don't need to go search through code samples or copy from the internet somewhere. I can just copy it straight from here. So you can see in this example, I have a model that takes an image as an input, and there you can see I created, say, tensor image.from bitmap. No need to do conversions or anything myself. This is now just a one-liner. I then send my input image into my model and I process it, and then I get a bunch of scores out. And that is just the probability of it being one of the results of my different labels. So in this case, it was my chip detector knickknack thing. So it was checking if it's a knickknack packet or a flings packet or something like that. And basically we get scores for those different things. And there was only 4 that I trained it on. So there's only going to be 1 of 4 options. And then we can use that information. So like I've got this image, I'm putting it in, I'm getting some scores out, and now I can use these scores to do something like just show it on screen, or I don't know, show some labels or something like that. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier to work with TensorFlow Lite. And I highly recommend trying it out and just giving it a go. So if you wanted to check out more about the TensorFlow stuff, there is a great tutorial from Margaret. If you go to the first link from Margaret, she has an icon classifier. So it's like just basic material, I think it's material design icons. And she goes through the whole process. So there's a blog post and accompanying TensorFlow Lite models that you train, and like the whole process of how to get it. So that's a really good tutorial and like sample code. And then there is also a code lab for this new, to use the recognize flowers example, and it's using this new TensorFlow Lite model binding stuff. So it makes it definitely a lot easier to work with and less cumbersome to create different cool TensorFlow Lite things. Okay, and then there is an emulator inside Android Studio now. So if you wanted to display it inside Android Studio, you basically just head to your preferences, into the emulator settings, and then there's a launch in the tool window option that you must enable. So just a quick look at how that works. So I'm going to my preferences, heading to emulator, and just this launch in the tool window, you can check it or and select it. And now whenever I launch a new emulator, it runs actually inside Android Studio. So you won't need to like bring it up or hide it or make it show on top. And you won't need to like fiddle with your window sizes and that kind of thing. You'll get your emulator right inside Android Studio, which is really cool. Great. And then lastly, Jetpack Compose previews. So for those that have been working with Jetpack Compose is the new modern UI toolkit that is still in alpha, so don't use it yet in production. But basically what Jetpack Compose is it's a whole new system for building views in Android. I'm not going to go into too much about what exactly it is because there's a lot of information on the internet, and you can check that out when you, if this piques your interest. But basically, it's going to be like the future of how we build Android apps. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye out for what exactly is going on with that. But if you wanted to play around with it, in the new version of Android Studio 4.2, there is now support for interactive previews. So this means you can click on buttons and see how things change inside Android Studio without it actually running on a device. And you can also deploy to a device if you wanted to. So you can deploy just a small snippet of code onto your device, and you don't have to run like your whole app in order to see how something looks, which is really, really cool because then you don't have to go through all the different steps of like navigating to where exactly you are inside your code base. You can just run that sort of small snippet, and it will just run very quickly and on your device. So this is the Jet News example, which is the Google sample that is being built. And basically when I've checked this out and I've just run it on device, and now you'll see I have actually got the code open for the home screen, and you can see it annotated with @composable. And on the side, I now have this preview. And if you click on it, there is an interactive button that I've just tapped on. And now when you click on things, like I'm clicking on this bookmark icon, you can see the actual state is changing inside Android Studio, and it's not even running on a device yet. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff being done with Jetpack Compose and like just working with these different previews. And also the last thing to mention is that little play button next to it. That is the run on device button. And then it will just deploy this certain screen to your device, and you can just play around with that specific screen or widget or whatever you want to call it, view, and that will just be run. So it's a lot quicker for you to dev with and work with. Yeah. So that's all I have for you today. If you want to check out more, I strongly recommend looking at the developer.android.com/studio link. There is basically all the stuff that I've covered and more. I didn't cover all the new features of Android Studio, just my personal favorites and some things that I found useful. So yeah, follow that and get the preview version, try it out, install it alongside your normal stable version so that you have both options. And yeah, that's all from me. So thank you very much. If you wanted to reach out to me, just remember you can catch me on Twitter @Regaview. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Rebecca. So we have some questions for you. Are you okay for questions?
Yeah.
So our first question is from Marlon. He's asking about motion layout and camera X. Is it possible to preview the preview in Motion Editor without affecting the animating state? If so, which version or branch of Studio can I use for that?
That is an interesting question. I haven't personally tried to use the preview view with motion layouts or any camera stuff specifically with motion layouts, so I can't answer that, unfortunately. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know.
That's okay. So if somebody has a like answer, maybe just pop it in chat and we can get back to that later. Trust has a question about motion layout. Is there a way to notify the activity or fragment that the animation has completed?
Yes, there is. So on a motion layout object inside, like programmatically inside your Java class or your Kotlin class, you can just say motion layout dot, I think it's add transition listener or add some kind of listener that you add onto it. I can't think of the name exactly. But once you add that, you get a bunch of different callbacks. So you get like a callback for when it's like each frame that it's transitioning between, as well as when it's complete. So you can do something with that information when you get it and it's finished on motion layout object itself.
Exactly, yes. A lot of people are ranting and not ranting and raving, but raving about the emulator and the IDE, Ewald and Joshua as well. But if there's any other questions, but mostly thank you very much, Rebecca, for speaking for us tonight. It was really amazing to hear all that's new in Android Studio.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.